Generally speaking, when women ask me about solo traveling, they have two main concerns. One is cost, and two is safety. So, today I want to go over a few practical safety tips that you can use as a female solo traveler that you can implement immediately that won't cost you a single dime. Some of these will absolutely seem um, quite straightforward or even obvious, but I'm going to try to dig into each one just a little bit to hopefully give you some more context and some additional resources to help you do this. So let's dive right in. The first one is to do your research, and not just do your research, but specifically do research with other single female travelers, and even more specifically, if you can find someone who fits your demographic, whether that's age or race, nationality, etc., that information is going to be invaluable. I think normally what inevitably happens when I tell someone that I'm solo traveling to a specific country is usually there's at least one person who will send me an article from a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago of some single woman that traveled to that place and was like kidnapped and never seen again, or like they found her head, her eyes were cut off, her ears were cut off, her leg, like that that whole thing. And inevitably, whenever you look into each of those articles or posts or whatever, there are people from that country or people who have traveled to that country who have done deeper research and are like, well, she was on such and such a street. That I wouldn't recommend a man walk down that street on their own, let alone a single woman from another country who doesn't speak the language. So, I always recommend whatever, depending on the size of the place you're going to, whatever country or city you're going to, do specific research on the different neighborhoods. For instance, just because it's easy. In Paris, there are different neighborhoods called arrondissement. It's just different neighborhoods of Paris, and each one is numbered. Each one is has its own vibe, kind of its own character. Some of them are a little bit dodgier, some of them are more known for specific types of immigrants. Certain, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, I'm just, some of them are like financial, some of them are shopping, etc. So each one is a little bit different. Cost wise, each of them is going to be different. Each one, the public transportation in each area might be a little sketchier or a little cleaner or a more, you know what I mean, just each one is going to have its own personality, and that's research. Sorry, got a message. That's research that you're going to want to do ahead of time. One, so that you end up in a neighborhood that is safe, but also you end up in a neighborhood that you're going to enjoy. Like, even if you only plan on being in like the area of Paris where the Eiffel Tower is, you're probably still going to want to walk around the neighborhood that your hotel or Airbnb is to go to a cafe, to get breakfast, to get lunch, whatever. So that's going to be valuable research that you want to do. And one place that I personally love going, I know there are Facebook groups. I'm sure you can look on Twitter and Instagram and whatnot. But Reddit, and I'm going to mention Reddit a couple of times, is extremely valuable to me. When I went to Morocco on my own, I posted on Reddit, hey, I'm going to this city in Morocco. Does anyone have a guide that they used that, was reputable, that they felt safe with? And there are different subreddits, which are basically just different forums based on a specific topic. So I think it's either called Solo Female Traveler or Solo Traveling Female, something like that. Anyway, and I got multiple recommendations, and a few people were like, hey, I booked this travel guide. He was amazing. I felt so safe. He took me all around the city. Mentioned that Katie from her November trip sent you. He'll know exactly who you're talking about. And that's how I ended up finding my guide. So you can look through those forums. You can search, for instance, sorry, camera's a little tilted. You can search, for instance, Paris solo travel for women, which neighborhoods are the best? Or if you're going to Turkey, like what neighborhoods in Istanbul should I be avoiding? Like, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, doing your research is going to be invaluable. The second thing is whether you're solo traveling or not, something that almost always happens to me, even though I have T-Mobile and their data program is pretty good, at some point there will be a time where I don't have service and I have to figure out how to get from point A to point B. And there are multiple ways, to manage this. Obviously, like I said, with T-Mobile, they have a data plan. It's generally cheaper for me to use an eSIM, which I've been doing more recently. But either way, you should be downloading an offline map of the city that you're going to be in. And you can do that on Google Maps. I don't know if you can do it on Apple Maps, but you can definitely do it on Google Maps. It'll take up some storage on your space on your it'll take up some storage on your space. It'll take up some storage on your phone, so just be aware of that. But essentially what it allows you to do is it downloads all the data for, the little quadrant, that little square that you designate. And basically, all you have to know is one of the addresses or one of the streets that you're currently on. So you can say, like, the cross street of First Street and B Street, and you're going to such and such a coffee shop or such and such a hotel, and it'll still give you the directions. The only difference is that it won't track your location in real time because you don't have like cell phone service. So you can still follow the directions and zoom in on the map and say, okay, I'm supposed to be passing, this McDonald's and this fix my phone shop and whatnot. And then I'm supposed to make a right. And you can still get to where you need to go until you have service. Going along with that, or next point, is just being confident. And even if you're not confident, acting like you're confident wherever you're going. I don't care where you are, I don't care how comfortable you are in a city, act like you know where you're going. Okay, act like you've been on this street a million times and you and your girlfriends are going for your weekly coffee to Timbuktu coffee shop, and that's like you know what you're doing. um there is something about, excuse me, like, I think the overarching thing is just trying not to be an easy target. And when you look like you're supposed to be there, you're a less easy target than someone who's a little unsure, doesn't know where they're going, is glancing down at their phone, et cetera, et cetera. And going along with that, when, for instance, there are times where you might feel like, is this guy behind me following me? Is he been behind me for a couple of streets? Like, what's going on? Facing it head on, and that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be like aggressive about it, but it's happened to me a couple of times in a couple different cities where I wasn't even 100% sure if the person behind me was following me or not. But I would stop like next to a window of a shop or next to a doorway or something, and I would make eye contact with the person. Again, it doesn't have to be aggressive or anything, but just pausing, just taking a pause before I knock on my friend's door, or before I go into this coffee shop, and you look them in the eye. Either they will stop and they'll look at you, and you look at them, and they'll look at you, and you look at them, or they'll just keep walking. In which case, you're not their target anymore. um, so that's huge. And then, of course, just the usual things like keeping your belongings close, not having a big open bag with no zipper, that sort of thing. um and that kind of rolls into the next point as well, of trying to blend in, just trying to be a regular person. Now, obviously, there will be plenty of places in the world, no matter what race you are, no matter what nationality you are, no matter what you look like, where you are going to stick out. Okay. When I went to Sweden, for instance, I stick out on the street. Like, yes, there are plenty of immigrants from all over the world living in Sweden, but I don't look like your average Swede. So I'm going to stick out either way. But as another example, if you're going to a more conservative country, if you're going to, I'm trying to think which. Well, okay, let's just say you're going to an Arab country. Let's say you're going to Egypt, you're going to Qatar, you're going to Morocco, wherever. It is much better for you, even if you're used to having everything out in America or whatever, whichever country you're from, to cover up more. Because if people are not used to seeing women with their ankles out, with their knees out, with their shoulders out, with their chest out, you are going to stand out so much more. Even if what you're wearing isn't crazy in your country, you still want to be extra mindful. And something I always like to do, no matter what country I'm in, is to carry like an extra scarf or like shawl. It comes in handy so much, whether you're at the beach and you just want to cover up, or whether you're the type of person who likes to explore like religious sites. It just helps to have something to throw over your shoulders, or if you're sitting on a train or some public place, to throw over your legs, whatever. It's just a nice thing to have. Let's see. Oh, keeping emergency info on hand and not on a digital device. So, and there are times when I slack on this, I'm not going to lie. But for instance, writing down the name and address of your accommodation, whether it's a hotel, whether it's a resort, whether it's an Airbnb, if you have your Airbnb manager's like contact number, writing that down, your emergency contacts. So is it your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your auntie, your, you know, Billy Bob at your favorite gas station, whatever. It doesn't matter. You want to write all of that information down and just have it on you somewhere. I prefer to keep it in a pocket. I feel like, who's gonna bother to take a piece of paper out of my pocket? If they decide to steal my purse, that's one thing. But if they try to pat me down and feel a piece of paper and they pull out a piece of paper, they're it's no use to them anyway, so they're not gonna take it. Of course, most of us ladies have the fifth pocket, so feel free to tuck it in there if you want. But you just want to have it written down so that, one, if your device gets stolen, you still have a way to get back to like a main point. You also want to have like the local emergency number. I know it's happened before where I'm like, what is the number? Nothing crazy, but like I'm trying to remember what's the local version of 911, and I can't remember, and trying to Google it, it just have it written down ahead of time. That makes it a lot easier. Um yeah, so at least you can get back to your hotel at minimum, or be able to tell a local like, hey, how do I get to this address? And if someone on the street decides to help you, they can still punch in, the address and help you get to where you're going. So there's that. And then last but not least, without a doubt, the most important thing is just keeping your wits about you. I know it can be so easy, especially if, since most of us have grown up in places where we didn't really feel like we had to keep our heads on a swivel, to get used to just dilly dallying down the street and not paying attention to what's going on around you. It's also really easy when you're in a new place and you're just enjoying the sights and sounds and smells and just all of the things in this new city or country, and sometimes you forget to just be aware of your surroundings. So being aware of, okay, this same person, I've seen this same person on, like, behind me for 3 blocks. Now personally, I don't think it's too crazy. Like, I'm not super anxious or anything, but I'm the type of person where if I'm driving home late at night, I notice if the same car makes 3 like same turns as I do. So, I'm one of those people that will take 4 right turns and be like, now, why did you follow me for 4 right turns? Thankfully, haven't need to do anything about that. But again, just being aware, and also learning some like tips and tricks to get to safety, or to be able to check your surroundings without constantly feeling like you are the anxious person on the streets. That also goes into blending in, not being like the anxious woman on the street who's like, oh my gosh, what's going on. Anytime there are shop windows where you can see your reflection and like the reflection of people walking by, I absolutely love stopping in those windows and either acting like I'm taking a selfie, acting like I'm looking at the clothes or shoes in the window and seeing as people walk by who might be paying a little too much attention to me, or seeing if that person that I thought had been following me for a couple blocks has now stopped and isn't passing me or is passing me. Like, all of that is super important. um yeah, keeping aware. I always try to keep aware of like where other women are around me. Obviously it's not universal, but I do find that even women in other countries are just generally cognizant of the safety of other women. So if you see a group of women sitting at a bench in like waiting for a train or a bus or whatever, it's easy to stand close to them, sit next to them, even if you're not directly interacting, and making it, you know, uh, there's just safety in numbers for women. So even if you're not with them, being in proximity to local women also generally keeps you safer. And then one thing which technically can cost money, but I feel like all of us have something that we can use, is wearing an engagement ring or a wedding ring. Now, mind you, I don't have a wedding ring, but I have a couple rings that could pass as a wedding ring. You know what I mean? And it's so aggravating. It's so frustrating. But in many countries, just the idea that you could possibly be connected to a man keeps you safer. Like, other men stay away from you because they're like, "Oh, there's potentially another man that I could be beholden to, or face the consequences of, if I pester this woman too much." And then there was one more thing that I just thought of, and I forgot. Sorry, y'all. Anyway, that's it. All of those are completely free tips that you can implement immediately in your home city if you're going to visit another city in your home country, or if you want to take a trip abroad. It's basic things. I think most of these we should probably be using for the most part anyway, but especially if you're in a new place, if you're somewhere unfamiliar. Oh, okay, I just found it. I'm finding it. Uh, never tell someone that you were traveling alone. Anytime, there have been a couple times I've broken that rule, but generally speaking, if I'm at a cafe or something and someone can tell that, like, obviously I'm not from there, and they're like, oh, you're visiting, why are you here for work, why are you whatever? I'm visiting family. I'm here visiting my homegirl. I'm waiting for my husband. He's he woke up a little later. I wanted to come down to eat first. He'll be here in 10 minutes. Like, whatever. Generally, again, if someone knows that you will be missed, that there's someone that has your location, that's another tip as well, to always make sure that somebody has your location. I think Google has a free like location sharing thing. It might eat up your data, but there's always Find My Friends, and then there are like some paid services if you're like an Android user. Can't speak to that. I feel like there's got to be a free service other than Google, but y'all can figure that out. I don't know. I'm so sorry. I'm not part of the green bubble community, so I would hate to give y'all false information. Um but yeah, obviously that helps quite a bit as well. Yeah, if someone always knows where you are, if someone can check in, if someone can ping your phone, if and if the local people are like, oh, okay, she's here alone for 30 minutes, she's here for 20 minutes, whatever. um yeah, if they think that there's someone at your Airbnb that will be at your hotel with you, any of that stuff, It makes it a whole lot better. I've also heard of women booking hotel rooms for two rather than just for one person. And again, doing the thing where it's like, oh, my so and so is parking the car, or whatever. He decided to grab food while I checked in. What, it doesn't matter. Any of that sort of stuff is very helpful. So thank you so much for joining me on this video. If you don't know, my name is Alexis. I post here on YouTube every single day. Check my track record. Today is day 43, and my goal is to reach at minimum 100 days of daily posting. So feel free to hop on this train early, hit subscribe. Comment if there are any other tips that I missed, or if there were any of these that you didn't know about. Would love to hear it. If there are any other travel topics that you would love to hear me talk about, always happy to take a request. I could use as many of them as possible on this daily video journey. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.